The biting Chicago wind whipped around Joshua Mitchell as he stepped out of the gleaming skyscraper, a gray cloud of his breath momentarily masking the sorrow etched on his handsome face. 4 years. 4 long, desolate years since his world had shattered, leaving behind an emptiness that the city's dazzling lights couldn't penetrate. The snow crunched under his expensive Italian leather shoes, each step a stark reminder of the life he'd lost, the future stolen. Inside his sleek sedan, the scent of leather and lingering grief coexisted. Joshua sighed, pulling out his iPhone, his thumb hovering over the contact for Miss Richmond, his daughter Stacy's nanny. The trill of the call was a brief, sharp sound in the plush silence, quickly replaced by Miss Richmond's calm, reassuring voice. "Good evening, Mr. Mitchell," she said, her tone professionally warm. "Evening, Miss Richmond. How's my little princess?" Joshua managed a faint smile, the thought of Stacy a lone beacon in his perpetual twilight. The distant joyful shriek and infectious giggle of his daughter crackled through the phone, a magical sound that, for a fleeting second, chased away the shadows clinging to his soul. It was a sound Eva would have adored. Eva, his vibrant, laughing wife, snatched away too soon. "She's a whirlwind of energy, as always. Just finished her masterpiece with the building blocks," Miss Richmond chuckled. "Sounds about right," Joshua replied, his voice thick with an emotion he rarely let surface. "I'll be home soon." He ended the call, the silence in the car suddenly heavier. On impulse, a rare deviation from his regimented routine, he pulled over at a high-end florist. Not just any flowers, but a lavish bouquet of a dozen deep crimson roses, each bloom perfect and velvety, a silent testament to a love that time couldn't dim. These weren't just flowers, they were a promise. Eva's memory, her essence, would forever be a part of him, a part of Stacy. He clutched the cool cellophane, the thorns a faint prick against his skin, a small, sharp pain mirroring the one in his heart. The city lights blurred as he pulled back into the relentless stream of traffic, the roses a splash of vibrant, defiant color against the monochrome of his grief. He was a man haunted, living a half-life, but for Stacy, he had to keep moving, keep breathing, even when each breath felt like a betrayal to the woman he'd sworn to love forever. The gates of Graceland Cemetery loomed, ornate and imposing, a stark contrast to the raw, aching grief that seized Joshua's heart every time he drove through them. The sky was a bruised, purplish gray, the wind howling a mournful dirge through the skeletal branches of ancient oaks, as if nature itself was weeping for the souls at rest. He parked the car, the crimson roses a stark splash of color on the passenger seat. Each step towards Eva's grave was a familiar agony, a path worn by 4 years of guilt and unspoken apologies. Her name, Eva Mitchell, beloved wife and mother, was carved into the cold, polished granite, a name that once meant laughter, warmth, and a future bright with promise. Now, it was a symbol of an irreplaceable loss, a constant reminder of the day their joy had turned to ashes, the day Stacy was born and Eva had slipped away during the complicated second childbirth. He knelt, the frozen ground biting through his trousers, and gently laid the roses beside a smaller, slightly wilted bouquet, a testament to his unwavering devotion. "I miss you so much, my love," he whispered, his voice cracking, the words swallowed by the wind. Tears, hot and unexpected, pricked his eyes. "Stacy, she needs her mom. I try, Eva. God knows I try, but I can't shake this feeling, this guilt that I could have done something more, something different." His voice was a raw, broken whisper, each syllable a heavy stone of regret. He stayed there for a long time, seeking solace in the cold stone, in the silent company of the woman he'd lost, finding only the echoing emptiness of his own heart. The wind seemed to whisper her name, a cruel trick of his sorrow-addled mind. Finally, with a shuddering breath, Joshua rose, the weight of his grief a physical burden. The drive home was a blur of city lights and the dull ache in his chest. But as he opened the front door of their brownstone, a small blonde missile of pure joy launched itself at him. "Daddy's home!" Stacy shrieked, her arms wrapping tightly around his legs, her laughter the sweetest melody in his desolate world. He scooped her up, swinging her around just like he used to do with Eva, the familiar motion a bittersweet pang. His eyes welled up, tears of joy and sorrow mingling. "How's my princess?" he asked, his voice thick with emotion. "We built a castle with Miss Richmond, Daddy. A giant one!" she exclaimed, grabbing his hand and pulling him towards her brightly colored playroom, her innocent exuberance a lifeline in his sea of despair. Stacy's playroom was an explosion of color and imagination, a vibrant sanctuary from the muted tones of Joshua's grief. Drawings in every conceivable crayon shade adorned the walls, and a magnificent, if slightly lopsided, block castle stood proudly in the center of the room. "See, Daddy, it has a tower for you, and one for me, and one for Mommy Angel," Stacy declared, her small face serious as she pointed to a particularly tall pink tower. Joshua's heart clenched. He knelt, feigning immense interest in the architectural marvel, the warmth of his daughter's innocent love, a soothing balm on his raw wounds. "It's the most beautiful castle I've ever seen, Princess," he said, his voice genuine. They spent the evening lost in Stacy's world, playing with dolls that had elaborate backstories and cars that embarked on daring adventures across the plush carpet. For dinner, Miss Richmond had prepared a simple but comforting roast chicken and a crisp garden salad. The easy chatter around the table, Stacy's excited recounting of her day, almost made him feel normal. Almost. After dinner, it was story time, a ritual he cherished. Tonight, it was a tale of a brave knight and a mischievous dragon. Stacy, nestled in his arms, her small hand clutching his, was asleep before the knight even reached the dragon's lair. He gently brushed a stray curl from her forehead. "Mommy loves you, little one," he whispered, the words a familiar prayer, a poignant ache. But later, alone in the master bedroom, their bedroom, the ghosts of the past returned with a vengeance. Sleep was a fickle friend, often eluding him entirely. He lay in the vast, empty bed, Eva's side cold and undisturbed for 4 long years. His mind replayed their life together in vivid, agonizing detail. Her infectious laugh, the way her eyes crinkled when she smiled, the gentle touch of her hand, her unwavering belief in him. It was as if she were right there, her scent lingering on the pillows, her warmth just out of reach. He remembered her excitement about their second child, the dreams they'd woven for their growing family, the joy, the anticipation, all cruelly cut short. Morning arrived, cold and gray, much like his mood. Joshua rose before dawn, a habit forged in the crucible of grief. He needed this quiet time, this solitary space to steel himself for the day ahead, while Stacy still slept soundly. The aroma of freshly brewed dark roast coffee filled the kitchen, a small, familiar comfort. He sat at the polished granite island, sipping the hot liquid, his thoughts a jumble of the previous evening's bittersweet moments and the looming pressure of an important business meeting. The coffee was strong, a jolt to his weary system, much like the memories of Eva potent and inescapable. He glanced at the clock. Time to face the world, to put on the mask of the successful, composed Joshua Mitchell. He grabbed his briefcase, the weight of his responsibilities, both personal and professional, settling heavily on his shoulders as he stepped out into the unforgiving chill of another Chicago morning. The imposing glass and steel facade of Mitchell Enterprises reflected the steely gray Chicago sky. As Joshua strode into the bustling lobby, the familiar hum of a high-powered corporation surrounded him. His secretary, Miss Albright, a woman whose sharp suits and even sharper intellect were legendary within the company, greeted him with a practiced, professional smile. "Good morning, Mr. Mitchell. You're looking determined today," she observed, her eyes missing nothing. "Good morning, Miss Albright. Let's hope that determination pays off," Joshua replied, a hint of his usual business acumen returning. "Everything in order for the Thompson meeting?" "Absolutely, sir. The revised proposal documents are on your desk, and I've CC'd you on the final confirmation. They're expecting you at the Gilded Spoon at noon. Mr. Hartley's office also called to confirm your 10 a.m. She handed him a sleek leather-bound folder. "Thank you, Miss Albright. You're a lifesaver." He offered a rare, fleeting smile before heading into his corner office, a space that offered panoramic city views but little personal comfort. The documents were meticulously organized, but Joshua's mind wasn't just on the figures and clauses. This deal with Thompson Consolidated was crucial. He needed to secure terms that would not only benefit his company, but also solidify its future, Stacy's future. An hour later, he was navigating the downtown traffic towards the opulent offices of Hartley, Stern and Finch, his longtime corporate attorney. Mr. Hartley, a portly man with a reassuringly calm demeanor and a mind like a steel trap, greeted him with a firm handshake. "Joshua, good to see you. Coffee?" "Thanks, Arthur. Just had some. Let's get right to it," Joshua said, settling into a plush leather chair opposite Hartley's mahogany desk. "Thompson's people are pushing back on the profit share percentages again." "Not surprised," Hartley rumbled, adjusting his glasses as he peered at the documents Joshua had brought. "They're known for playing hardball. They're proposing a 7% increase for them on the back end, arguing it incentivizes long-term partnership." He tapped a graph with his pen. "Frankly, Joshua, your initial offer was more than generous. This new demand significantly inflates your risk and upfront costs. In this volatile market, it's a gamble." "I agree," Joshua nodded, his jaw tightening. "But I need this deal closed, Arthur. We can't afford to lose momentum. What if we offer a smaller, performance-based bonus structure instead? Tie their extra percentage to hitting specific milestones. It shows goodwill but protects our baseline." "A reasonable compromise," Hartley mused, stroking his chin. "It gives them a carrot but a conditional one. You'll need to frame it carefully, emphasize the mutual benefit and the shared success metrics. Thompson's a shrewd negotiator. He'll pick apart any weakness." Just then, the intercom buzzed. "Mr. Hartley, apologies for the interruption, but I have the revised competitor analysis you requested," his assistant's voice announced. Documents were brought in. As Hartley reviewed them, Joshua's mind raced, replaying potential negotiation scenarios. He needed to be unshakable, precise. "Do you think, Arthur," Joshua asked, leaning forward, "if we package this bonus structure with a slightly extended exclusivity clause, they might bite? Make them feel they're getting something substantial in return for dropping the flat percentage hike?" Hartley paused, then nodded slowly. "It's a strong play, Joshua, calculated. I'll draft the addendum immediately. You've got this." Leaving Hartley's office, a sliver of confidence pierced through Joshua's usual unease. He was prepared. Now for the lion's den. The Gilded Spoon was one of those power lunch establishments where fortunes were made and reputations were sealed over $1,000 bottles of wine and meticulously plated entrees. Soft jazz murmured in the background, a discreet soundtrack to the high-stakes negotiations unfolding at linen-draped tables. Joshua, impeccably dressed and outwardly composed, spotted his quarry in a secluded corner booth. Mr. Thompson, a man whose silver hair and tailored suit screamed old money and ruthless ambition, was already seated, flanked by a striking young woman. As Joshua approached, Thompson rose, extending a hand. "Mitchell, good to see you. Hope we can hammer out something mutually beneficial today." His smile didn't quite reach his eyes. "Mr. Thompson," Joshua returned the handshake, his grip firm. "I'm confident we can. Thank you for your time." He then turned his attention to Thompson's companion. "And this must be—" "My associate, Miss Lillian Hayes," Thompson interjected smoothly. Lillian, perhaps in her late 20s, possessed a cascade of dark, glossy hair and intelligent, expressive eyes that Joshua noted with a flicker of surprise seemed to be appraising him with an intensity that went beyond mere professional curiosity. It was unsettling, yet intriguing. "A pleasure, Miss Hayes," Joshua said, offering a polite nod. She returned it with a small, enigmatic smile. They settled into the plush booth, a waiter appearing as if by magic to take their drink orders. The small talk was brief, perfunctory, before Thompson steered the conversation to business. "So, Mitchell, your revised proposal. I've had a look. Overall, impressive. Your team does good work." He gestured to the documents Joshua had laid out. "However, that profit share percentage, it's still a sticking point for us. A 7% uplift is critical for our board's approval." Joshua maintained his calm, meeting Thompson's gaze directly. "Mr. Thompson, I understand your position. However, as we've discussed, a flat 7% increase on our initial terms isn't feasible for Mitchell Enterprises at this juncture. It significantly impacts our cost-benefit ratio. We've already offered what we believe is a highly competitive package. He then outlined the performance-based bonus structure he and Hartley had devised. Lillian, seated beside Thompson, listened intently, her gaze rarely leaving Joshua. It wasn't overtly flirtatious, but there was a focused, almost knowing quality to it that made him subtly self-conscious. Thompson listened, steepling his fingers. A performance-based incentive. Interesting. But I'm not one for hasty decisions, Mitchell. My team will need to scrutinize this. Give me a week. If your offer doesn't meet our revised expectations by then— He paused, a sly glint in his eye. Well, I'm sure you understand we have other potential partners eager for a piece of this pie. A week it is, Mr. Thompson, Joshua agreed, a steely edge to his voice. I'm confident you'll find our proposal more than fair. As they rose to leave, handshakes were exchanged again. Just as Joshua was about to turn, Lillian stepped forward, a small, elegant business card appearing in her hand as if from nowhere. Mr. Mitchell, she said, her voice a low, melodious murmur. If you or your team have any ancillary questions or require further clarification before Mr. Thompson's review, please don't hesitate to reach out directly to me. Her smile was soft, almost intimate. Thank you, Miss Hayes, Joshua replied, taking the card. I appreciate that. He felt her gaze linger on him a moment longer than strictly necessary before she turned to follow Thompson. The encounter left him with a strange mix of professional tension and an unexpected, undeniable spark of something else. The city lights painted shifting patterns on Joshua's penthouse apartment walls as he paced, the lingering tension of the Thompson meeting coiling in his gut. It was nearly 11, the witching hour when his defenses were at their lowest, and the ghosts of his past whispered loudest. After a long day, exhaustion warred with a restless energy. He'd shed his suit jacket, the silk tie loosened, a half-empty glass of expensive single-malt scotch warming in his hand. Miss Richmond had long since departed, and Stacy was sound asleep, her innocent dreams a stark contrast to his own troubled thoughts. The evening news droned on the widescreen TV, a meaningless babble that did little to distract him from the replay of the afternoon's negotiations. His hand, reaching for the remote, brushed against the cool, crisp rectangle of Lillian Hayes's business card. He picked it up, her name, Lillian Hayes, Associate Director, Thompson Consolidated, printed in elegant, understated script. Her intense gaze, that subtle, knowing smile. He took a larger sip of scotch. What was he doing? This was business, complicated, high-stakes business. Yet, he found himself dialing her number before he could second-guess the impulse. One ring, then another. He almost hung up, a sudden wave of self-consciousness washing over him. This was unprofessional. Late. Then her voice, surprisingly warm and awake, answered. Lillian Hayes. Miss Hayes. Lillian. It's Joshua Mitchell, he said, trying to sound casual, hoping the scotch masked the slight tremor in his voice. I apologize for calling so late, but I was reviewing our discussion from earlier, and a thought occurred to me. A lame excuse, even to his own ears. A soft chuckle came through the line. Mr. Mitchell. Joshua. No need to apologize. I'm a bit of a night owl myself. What can I do for you? There was a hint of amusement in her tone, as if she knew his call wasn't entirely about business. Actually, he admitted, abandoning the pretense, I was wondering how your day went after our spirited discussion. He cringed internally. Smooth, Mitchell, real smooth. Oh, you know, Lillian replied, her voice taking on a more relaxed cadence. The usual corporate whirlwind. Mr. Thompson is actually heading out of town on business for a few days, so things might quiet down a little. How about yours? Recovered from the gilded spoon grilling? Still processing, Joshua confessed, a genuine smile touching his lips for the first time that evening. Lots of paperwork preparing for the next round, whatever that may be. He paused, then took the plunge. Look, Lillian, this is probably forward, but I was thinking perhaps we could continue our conversation in a less formal setting? Maybe dinner tomorrow night? My treat, of course, to de-stress from all this corporate warfare. There was a brief, tantalizing silence on the other end. Then, that sounds unexpectedly delightful, Joshua. Her voice was now infused with a warmth that sent a surprising jolt through him. I'd like that very much. Where and when? Relief washed over him. Allow me a moment. He quickly scrolled through his mental list of suitable, impressive yet intimate restaurants. How about Villa Rosa, 8 o'clock? It's known for its ambiance and excellent Italian. Villa Rosa at 8 sounds perfect, Lillian replied, a distinct note of pleasure in her voice. I'll look forward to it. Send me the address? Of course, consider it done. Thank you for entertaining a spontaneous invitation, Lillian. Good night. Good night, Joshua. As he ended the call, Joshua felt a lightness he hadn't experienced in years. He finished his scotch, the earlier tension replaced by a curious, hopeful anticipation. The city lights outside suddenly seemed a little brighter. The next morning dawned with a chaotic symphony of giggles and tiny, insistent hands. Daddy, wake up! It's park day! Park day! Stacy, a miniature blonde hurricane, bounced on his bed, her energy infectious even through his lingering sleepiness. Joshua groaned, mock protesting before scooping her into a bear hug. All right, princess. Good morning to you too. He kissed the top of her head, the scent of her strawberry shampoo a familiar comfort. Someone's excited. Did Miss Richmond promise extra ice cream today? Nope, just sunshine and slides, Stacy declared, wiggling free and already halfway to the door. Breakfast first, Daddy. Pancakes? Her boundless enthusiasm was a potent antidote to any lingering shadows from the night before. After a whirlwind breakfast of syrup-drenched pancakes and happy chatter, Stacy and Miss Richmond departed for their park adventure, armed with a picnic basket and boundless energy. Joshua, despite the pleasant domestic interlude, felt the familiar pull of his corporate responsibilities. In his office, however, amidst the towering stacks of reports and the blinking lights of his computer, his thoughts kept drifting back to Lillian Hayes. He found himself smiling, a genuine, unforced smile. On an impulse, he called his preferred florist. 12 white lilies this time, he specified. To Miss Lillian Hayes at Thompson Consolidated, card to read, looking forward to tonight, Joshua. A small gesture perhaps, but it felt right. He'd barely settled back into his work when his office door burst open, revealing Nicholas Thorne, his best friend since college, and the charismatic head of Mitchell Enterprises' marketing department. Well, Nicholas drawled, leaning against the doorframe with a theatrical smirk. Heard through the grapevine? Okay. Saw the florist's van myself. That someone's playing Casanova. White lilies, Mitchell? That's a bold move. Who's the lucky lady who's managed to thaw the Ice King? Joshua felt a flush creep up his neck. It's not what you think, Nick. And how do you always know everything? He grumbled, though a smile played on his lips. I have my sources, my friend. And your face. It's got that smitten kitten look I haven't seen since, well, you know. Nicholas's teasing softened, a shadow of shared memory passing between them. So, spill. Who is she? New in town? Someone from our esteemed competitor's camp, perhaps? He waggled his eyebrows conspiratorially. Her name is Lillian Hayes, Joshua admitted, unable to suppress the smile this time. She's an associate of Mr. Thompson's. Aha! Fraternizing with the enemy, are we? Nicholas chuckled, pushing himself off the doorframe and plopping into the chair opposite Joshua's desk. I thought our HR department had stricter policies about that. Or is this purely strategic networking? His grin was infectious. We met at the business lunch yesterday, Joshua explained, feeling strangely lighter sharing this. And yes, we're having dinner tonight. Just dinner. Just dinner, Nicholas echoed, his voice dripping with mock skepticism. He winked. Sure, Mitchell. And I'm just the best marketing guru in Chicago. Hope it goes brilliantly, man. You deserve some non-strategic happiness. He clapped Joshua on the shoulder. Promise me all the juicy details tomorrow. Get out of here, Thorne, Joshua laughed, swatting at him good-naturedly. I have actual work to do. As Nicholas sauntered out, still chuckling, Joshua returned to his spreadsheets, but his focus was shot. Lillian. Dinner. A spark of something new. Something hopeful. His phone buzzed. A text from Lillian. "The lilies are breathtaking, Joshua. Thank you. See you at 8, L." His smile widened. The workday suddenly seemed interminably long. Villa Rosa was a symphony of soft lighting, muted conversations, and the tantalizing aroma of garlic and herbs. Joshua, arriving a few minutes early, smoothed down his tie, a nervous energy thrumming beneath his calm exterior. He checked his reflection in the ornate lobby mirror, trying to quell the uncharacteristic flutter of anticipation. This wasn't a business dinner. This was something else. And then she walked in. Lillian. She was breathtaking. A simple, elegant black dress clung to her graceful figure, her dark hair cascading over her shoulders, her eyes, those captivating eyes, sparkling with an inner light. Joshua felt his breath catch. His carefully constructed composure momentarily faltered. "Lillian," he said, his voice a little huskier than he intended, as he stepped forward, taking her hand and bringing it to his lips in a gesture that felt both archaic and incredibly natural. "You look absolutely stunning." A soft blush colored her cheeks. "Thank you, Joshua. You're looking rather dapper yourself." Her smile was radiant, her eyes meeting his with a warmth that melted some of the ice around his heart. They were led to a secluded table by a window overlooking a charming courtyard. Joshua ordered a bottle of Barolo, a rich complex red he knew she'd appreciate. "To a perfect way to unwind and talk," he toasted, their glasses clinking softly. "An excellent idea," Lillian agreed, her gaze meeting his over the rim of her glass. "Let's start with something completely non-corporate. Tell me, Joshua Mitchell, when you're not conquering the business world, what sets your soul on fire?" The evening unfolded like a dream. They talked about everything and nothing, her passion for modern art and obscure foreign films, his surprising love for sailing, a relic from a past life, his recent clumsy attempts at baking with Stacy. He found himself opening up in a way he hadn't with anyone since Eva, sharing stories about his daughter, the fierce, protective love he felt for her, the bittersweet joy she brought into his life. "Stacy sounds like a little spark plug," Lillian said, her eyes soft with genuine interest when he described Stacy's latest park escapade. "It must be incredible watching her grow, discover the world." "She's everything," Joshua admitted, a lump forming in his throat. "After Eva, after her mom passed, she became my anchor, my reason." He hadn't meant to go there, but Lillian's empathetic gaze made it easy. Lillian reached across the table, her hand briefly covering his. A simple touch, yet it sent a current of warmth through him. "I can only imagine how difficult that must have been for both of you," she said softly, her sincerity palpable. "You're doing an amazing job, Joshua. It's clear how much you adore her." Her understanding, devoid of pity, was a balm to his old wounds. As the night deepened, their conversation grew more intimate. They shared dreams deferred, quiet fears, and nascent hopes. After dinner, he offered to drive her home. The night air was cool and crisp as they walked to his car. "Tonight was special, Joshua," Lillian said as they pulled up to her upscale apartment building. "I haven't enjoyed an evening this much in a very long time." Her eyes, illuminated by the soft glow of the streetlights, were luminous. "Me neither, Lillian," he confessed, his voice low. He turned off the engine, the sudden silence amplifying the unspoken tension between them. He leaned in, slowly, giving her every chance to pull away. She didn't. Her eyes fluttered closed as his lips met hers. It was a tentative kiss at first, then deepened, a sweet, intoxicating fusion of longing and discovery. It felt like coming home after a long, arduous journey. When they finally broke apart, breathless, Joshua felt his heart hammering against his ribs. "Good night, Lillian," he whispered, his voice hoarse. "Good night, Joshua," she replied, her smile soft and luminous, before disappearing into the building. He watched her go, his world subtly, irrevocably shifted. This woman, this enchanting, intelligent woman, had somehow, in the span of a few hours, rekindled a spark he thought had died with Ava. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of stolen moments and deepening connection. Dinners at Villa Rosa became their cherished ritual, each encounter revealing new layers to Lillian's captivating personality and Joshua's carefully guarded heart. Text messages flew back and forth, witty banter, shared articles, simple thinking of you notes that brought unexpected smiles to Joshua's face. He found himself looking forward to their dates with an almost boyish enthusiasm, a feeling he hadn't experienced in what felt like a lifetime. The shadow of Eva still lingered, a gentle melancholy, but Lillian wasn't trying to replace her. She was, somehow, carving out her own unique space in his life, bringing light and laughter back into his world. One crisp Saturday morning, as he watched Stacy meticulously arrange her stuffed animals for a tea party, a thought crystallized in Joshua's mind. It was time. "Princess," he began, kneeling beside her, "you know my friend Lillian?" Stacy nodded, her brow furrowed in concentration as she poured imaginary tea for a one-eyed teddy bear. "Well, I was thinking, maybe you'd like to meet her properly? We could all go to the zoo, or maybe for ice cream?" Stacy looked up, her blue eyes, so like Ava's, suddenly wary. "Is she nice?" she asked, her voice small. "She's very nice, sweetheart," Joshua assured her, his heart aching at her hesitation. "And she's really excited to meet you." The introduction was carefully planned for a sunny afternoon at Lincoln Park Zoo. Joshua felt a knot of anxiety tighten in his stomach. This was important. Crucial. Lillian arrived looking effortlessly chic in jeans and a soft cashmere sweater, a warm, genuine smile on her face. In her hands, she held a beautifully wrapped gift. Stacy, clutching Joshua's hand, eyed Lillian with a mixture of curiosity and suspicion. "Stacy, this is my very special friend, Lillian," Joshua said, his voice gentle. "Lillian, this is my amazing daughter, Stacy." Lillian knelt, bringing herself to Stacy's eye level. Her smile was soft, unthreatening. "Hello, Stacy. It's so wonderful to finally meet you. Your daddy has told me so many amazing things about you." She then offered the gift. "I brought you a little something. I hope you like her." Stacy's eyes widened as she tore off the wrapping paper to reveal a beautiful doll with flowing brown hair and a sparkly dress. A tiny, hesitant smile touched Stacy's lips. "Thank you, Auntie Lillian," she whispered, already captivated. "Can she talk?" "No, she can't talk out loud," Lillian replied, her voice warm and playful. "But I bet she's a very good listener, especially for all your wonderful stories. And she loves adventures, just like you." Stacy looked from the doll to Lillian, then to her father. "Will she live with us?" she asked, her gaze suddenly fixed on Joshua. Joshua exchanged a quick, hopeful glance with Lillian. "Well, sweetheart," he began carefully, "Lillian and I are getting to know each other. How about we all get to know each other first? You can show Lillian your favorite animals, and maybe tell her all about your doll." Stacy, her initial reserve melting under Lillian's gentle charm and the allure of the new doll, nodded. She slipped her small hand into Lillian's. "Okay, let's go see the penguins. They're my favorite." As they strolled through the zoo, Stacy chattering excitedly to Lillian about everything from the sleeping lions to the mischievous monkeys, Joshua watched them, a profound sense of relief and a burgeoning hope filling his heart. Lillian listened with genuine interest, asking thoughtful questions, laughing at Stacy's jokes. By the time they were sharing a giant ice cream cone, Stacy was leaning comfortably against Lillian, giggling as Lillian wiped a smudge of chocolate from her chin. It wasn't just a successful introduction. It felt like the tentative, fragile beginning of something new, something whole. The transition was surprisingly seamless. Lillian, with her innate warmth and effortless grace, didn't just move into Joshua's house. She breathed new life into it. Weekends were no longer tinged with a quiet melancholy, but filled with the sounds of Stacy's laughter, the aroma of Lillian's surprisingly adept baking, and the comfortable rhythm of a family finding its footing. Lillian and Stacy developed their own special bond, built on shared secrets whispered during bedtime stories, elaborate craft projects spread across the kitchen table, and a mutual adoration for sparkly things. Joshua would often find himself simply watching them, a quiet joy unfurling within him. He saw how Lillian patiently helped Stacy with her homework, how her eyes lit up when Stacy recounted her school day, how she instinctively knew when Stacy needed a hug or a quiet moment. One crisp autumn evening, about 6 months after Lillian had officially become a part of their lives, Joshua knew it was time. He'd booked a table at their favorite intimate French bistro, the one where the lighting was always flattering and the champagne flowed freely. Lillian, suspecting nothing more than a much-needed date night, looked radiant in a sapphire blue dress that matched the sparkle in her eyes. "You seem particularly pensive tonight, Joshua," she observed over their appetizers, her head tilted curiously. "Good pensive, I hope?" He reached across the table, taking her hand. "The best kind of pensive, Lillian." After a delectable meal, as a decadent chocolate lava cake sat between them, Joshua felt his heart begin to pound. This was it. He discreetly signaled the waiter, who, as prearranged, dimmed the lights ever so slightly. He rose from his chair, moved around the table, and knelt beside her, a small velvet box appearing in his hand as if by magic. "Lillian," he began, his voice thick with emotion, his carefully rehearsed speech momentarily forgotten. "These past months, you've brought so much light, so much laughter, so much love back into my life, into Stacy's life. You've shown me what it means to hope again, to dream again. I can't imagine my life, our life, without you." Her eyes widened, her hand flying to her mouth as tears welled up. "Joshua, are you—" He opened the box, revealing a stunning cushion-cut diamond ring that glittered brilliantly in the candlelight. "Lillian Hayes," he continued, his gaze locked on hers, his heart overflowing. "I love you more than words can say. I want to spend the rest of my life with you, making you happy, building our family together. Will you marry me? Will you be my wife?" Tears streamed down Lillian's face, but her smile was dazzling. "Oh, Joshua, yes, yes, 1,000 times yes!" she choked out, her voice a sob of pure joy. He slipped the ring onto her finger, a perfect fit. The other diners, sensing the magic of the moment, erupted into spontaneous applause. He stood, pulling her into a passionate embrace, the world outside their small, perfect bubble fading away. "I'm so happy, Joshua," she whispered against his chest. This is everything I've ever dreamed of." "Me too, my love," he murmured, kissing her deeply. "This is just the beginning." When they told Stacy the news the next morning, her shriek of delight could have shattered glass. "You're going to be my new mommy for real?" she'd asked, her eyes wide with wonder. Lillian had swept her into a hug, tears in her own eyes. "Yes, sweetheart, for real, and forever." The future, once a bleak, uncertain landscape, now stretched before Joshua, bright and full of promise, illuminated by the love of two incredible women. The wedding was an intimate, elegant affair held at a charming countryside inn, bathed in the golden light of late spring. Stacy, as the flower girl, looked like a miniature angel in her lace dress, beaming with pride as she scattered rose petals down the aisle. Joshua, waiting at the altar, felt his heart swell as he watched Lillian walk towards him, a vision in ivory, her eyes sparkling with love and happiness. Their vows were heartfelt, promises of forever whispered amidst tears and smiles. It was, by all accounts, a perfect day, the beginning of their perfect life together. For their honeymoon, they'd made a somewhat unconventional choice, a sun-drenched, family-friendly resort on the Californian coast. Joshua couldn't imagine their first official family vacation without Stacy, and Lillian, with her characteristic warmth, had wholeheartedly agreed. "She's part of us, Joshua, our little trio," she'd said, sealing the decision with a kiss. The days melted into a blissful rhythm of building sandcastles, splashing in the turquoise waves, and sharing ice cream under colorful umbrellas. Stacy was in her element, her laughter echoing along the beach, and Joshua watched, his heart overflowing, as Lillian patiently taught her to swim, her love for his daughter as palpable as his own. But amidst the idyllic sunshine, a subtle shadow began to creep in. Lillian, who had recently resigned from her high-powered position at Thompson Consolidated, claiming she wanted to focus on their new family, started exhibiting small, almost imperceptible changes in her behavior. There were hushed phone calls she'd take on the balcony, a new secretiveness in her eyes, moments when she seemed distant, her thoughts a million miles away. Joshua, attributing it to the stress of the wedding, the move, and the significant life change of leaving her career, tried to brush off his unease. He was a man who'd learned to cherish happiness, and he wasn't about to let unfounded suspicions mar their newfound bliss. One afternoon, while Joshua was on a conference call for a critical new project he was spearheading, Stacy was playing quietly in the adjoining suite of their resort villa. Lillian, thinking she was alone, was on the phone again, her voice a low, urgent murmur that carried through the partially open connecting door. Stacy, curious, tiptoed closer, her favorite doll clutched to her chest. What she heard made her blood run cold. "Don't worry, everything's on track," Lillian was saying, her tone chillingly calm. "I have it right here." A pause, then, "Yes, the little vial. Tonight's the night. I'll slip it into his evening tea. He'll be incapacitated, just as we planned. And then, darling, Mitchell Enterprises will finally be ours for the taking." Stacy clapped her hands over her mouth to stifle a gasp, her eyes wide with terror. Incapacitated? Her daddy? And who was Lillian talking to with such venomous intimacy? Her heart hammered against her ribs. This wasn't the kind, loving Lillian she knew. This was someone terrifying. She backed away slowly, her mind reeling. She had to warn her daddy. She had to save him. Stacy, trembling from head to toe, burst into the room where Joshua was just finishing his call, her face pale with terror. "Daddy! Daddy, you can't drink the tea!" she cried, tugging at his sleeve, her voice a frantic whisper. "Not from that cup! Lillian, she's going to put poison in it. I heard her. She wants to hurt you and take your company." Joshua stared at his daughter, his initial disbelief warring with the raw fear in her eyes. Stacy wasn't prone to flights of fancy. A cold dread seeped into his bones. He remembered Lillian's recent odd behavior, the hushed phone calls. Could it be true? The loving woman he'd married? A viper in disguise? His intuition, a long-dormant instinct, screamed at him to trust his daughter. Thinking fast, he knelt beside Stacy. "Show me, princess. Which cup?" When Lillian breezed back into the living area a few minutes later, humming a cheerful tune, a silver tea tray in her hands, Joshua had already, with a sleight of hand born of desperation, switched the delicate porcelain teacups. He watched, his heart a leaden weight in his chest, as Lillian poured the fragrant Earl Grey. "Here you go, darling," she said, her smile radiant as she handed him the cup, her cup. "A nice, relaxing cuppa after your stressful call." She then picked up the other cup, his cup, now hers, and took a delicate sip. Perfect." Joshua forced a smile, his insides churning. Just what I needed. They sat in a strained silence, Lillian making small talk, Joshua watching her like a hawk. Minutes later, a flush crept up Lillian's neck. Her breathing grew shallow. I don't feel so well," she stammered, her hand flying to her throat. Her eyes widened in panic as she gasped for air, a look of dawning horror spreading across her features before she collapsed, writhing onto the plush resort carpet. Chaos erupted. Joshua, his mind reeling, barked orders into the phone for an ambulance, while Stacy clung to him, sobbing. At the sterile, impersonal hospital, after Lillian had been stabilized, Joshua confronted her. She lay pale and weakened in the bed, her beautiful face contorted with what looked like remorse? "Why, Lillian? For God's sake, why?" he demanded, his voice raw with a pain that cut deeper than any physical wound. Tears streamed down her face. "Joshua, I'm so sorry. I never wanted. It all went wrong. It was him. He made me." Before she could finish, the door burst open and Nicholas Thorne, his best friend, his confidant, rushed in, his face a mask of terror and desperation. "Lillian, are you okay? What happened?" He skidded to a halt, seeing Joshua. "Mitchell, what the hell are you doing here? What did you do to her?" Joshua's blood ran cold. "What am I doing here, Nick? What are you doing here?" Nicholas swallowed hard, his eyes darting between Lillian and Joshua. She's pregnant, Mitchell, with my child." The words hit Joshua like a physical blow. "Pregnant? With Nicholas's child?" "You're looking at me like that?" Nicholas sneered, his voice laced with a venom Joshua had never heard. "Yeah, we've known each other for years, and it was my idea. This whole love you till death do us part charade, only you were supposed to drink that damn tea, you bastard. You were supposed to be the one writhing on the floor, not her. But why, Nick? We were friends. Brothers! Joshua was stunned, the betrayal a gaping wound. Friends! Nicholas spat, his face contorted with a rage that had clearly festered for years. You want to know what it feels like to have your woman stolen by your best friend Mitchell? Eva. Eva should have been mine. But you, with your money and your charm, you took her. You don't love anyone but yourself and your damn money. Eva? Joshua whispered, the name a fresh stab of pain. He looked at Nicholas, then at Lillian, the pieces of a horrifying puzzle clicking into place. The calculated courtship, the perfectly timed affection, all a lie, a cruel, elaborate trap. You're insane, Joshua said, his voice flat, devoid of emotion. He turned and walked out of the hospital room, the stench of betrayal clinging to him. His world, so recently rebuilt, had crumbled into dust. The first call he made was to Mr. Hartley. Arthur, he said, his voice like ice, I need a divorce, and I need it now. The memory of Lillian's smile, once a beacon of hope, was now just another shadow in the ruins of his heart.